入ってるよ、もうね。はい。
Morning. Is it morning?
No?
Oh, it's nighttime. Good evening. Good morning in
こんばん
America.
は、こんばんは、こんばんは。アメリカはモーニン
Good morning.
グ。はーい。では、マイク&クニの異文化ルーム Facebook ライブを始めます。よろしくお願いします。はい。大丈夫そうですね。始ま
So
ってますね。
today is
はい。
the Mike and Cooney's Ibunka room, so intercultural communication room. So in here, the purpose of this is to talk about our international life and communication and share our stories. So maybe you can learn a little bit about intercultural communication.
はい。この異文化ルームライブでは、マイクとクニの、家族の話とか、日本語は
Okay, so 今日はいつも通りね、マイクとクニの異文化コミュニケーション部屋ですね。ライブね。私たちの目標は皆さん、と一緒に私たちのintercultural communication の異文化コミュニケーションの問題とか communication style and you can learn. So maybe you can learn something you can use. So hopefully it's very useful for you. 便利な方法でしょ？
便利な方法。すごいマイク、日本語完璧。今の多分ほとんど伝わってます。
Actually, that was the second thing I'm supposed to say is this program is bilingual, but I don't think it's bilingual, Kuni. I think it's quadrilingual. Bilingual means two languages, but this is four languages.
はい、私たち4つの言葉を使ってます。
Yeah, it's English and Japanese, but also Mike's bad Japanese and Kuni's bad English.
はい。
ちゃんぽんスタイル。
ちゃんぽん4つの言葉がちゃんぽんスタイルで、話し始めます。普段の私たちのもう毎日ですね。毎日の言葉ですね。それにぜひ皆さん参加してもらいたいのと、一緒に楽しんでください。よろしくお願いします。
Okay, so that's the two
早速見てくださっている方がいます。ありがとうございます。
Hello.
見てくれ、Hello. よかったら、はい、コメントください。よろしくお願いします。
Somebody came in, please comment. I can't, these glasses don't work. So they look like they work, but they don't work. All right, so last week, Kuni, we talked about family.
はい、そうですね。家族について先週お話ししました。
So today we're going to talk about family again.
もう一回ファミリーについてです。
That's because family has two words in Japanese. You know, we talked about English and I talked about high context and low context. So once again, Japanese is a high context language, which means very indirect. And English is a low context language, which means very direct. Okay, so 日本語は、はい、日本語は、ハイコンテクストの言語ですね。そう、例えば1を聞いて10を知るスタイルね。でも、英語は low context style。そう、1を聞いて1しか知らないスタイルですね。はい、so very direct。はっきりスタイルね。はい、大阪スタイル maybe。
そうですね。はい。日本語と英語、もう日本人の私たちは当たり前ですが、日本人って空気を読むっていうじゃないですか。それが、いわゆる、あれ取ってとかっていうと、わかるようなことですよね。英語だと、もう、ダイレクト、ストレートにお話をするっていうのが、まあ、大きな特徴。それによって私たち毎日、あれそうどうみたいなことが起こっていますね。
So this means that what Kuni's saying is basically give an example of what I said, that Japanese is high context. So the way they use the high context style is things like they might just say that or the thing, and you're supposed to know. Whereas English tends to be low context, which is a very direct style language. But you know what, Kuni? We talk about family. My father was very high context.
Wow.
Yeah, when he talked to his wife, you know, his second wife, I guess. he would say, he would come in the house and say, "Give me the thing on the thing on the thing." And to me, and I'm looking, I would get the key, no, get his wallet, no, I don't. But my stepmother, Clara, she would just go get what he wanted. So, you know, he was very high context. So not all Americans are super low context.
マイクのお父さんのね、お話ですね。マイクのお父さんはアメリカ人ですが、 とてもハイコンタクト。つまりちょっと日本人とね、似ている感じで、あれは何とか、これは何とかっていうことをよく言ったらしいです。でマイクは全然意味がわからない。何の話してるのっていうようなね、お父さん、アメリカ人にしては珍しいタイプ。
でも、珍しいじゃない。
珍しくない。
Because America is different because we have all kinds of people. Whereas Japanese, 典型的な日本人は high context ね。
ああ、私ね。
Are you 典型的な Japanese? Are you typical Japanese?
50% 定型的。
So not. But what the important point was, Kuni, talking about family, my mama haha, my stepmother, can understand him. So that's the difference. With high context, you can do high context communication if you know each other well. So they were together a long time. So they knew each other very well. Now, of course, I knew my father well, but I didn't live with him every day. So, yeah. No, I just said the same thing. Mama haha, お父さんのことわかる。でも私じゃない。彼たちは一緒に住んでいましたね。だから、上下関係は強いですね。人間関係は強いですね。So their human relationship was very strong. So if you, in other words, high context communication, if you have a good relationship, you can build it. Okay? So Japanese people, sometimes the relationship is already there because we are Japanese. So very similar. Whereas, yes, I think so. Yeah, because Japanese people usually understand. Right? Kuni, do you have many KY friends? Do you have many friends that are KY?
そんなにいない多分。
ないでしょ? Not so many. So KY means kuku yomunai hito. So this means someone who can't read between the lines. And Kuni says she doesn't have many friends like that. I think there are many Japanese people like that, but nobody likes them. Because if you can't read the messages, you can't communicate. All right. So talk about family. The reason we need 2 times is because Japanese has 2 words for family. Can you tell me?
そう。日本人はあなたの家族はって言われたら皆さんなんて答えますか?
Okay, so Kuni just asked for Japanese people, who's your family? But also for non-Japanese people, please think about who is your family. What does that word mean?
そうね、普通の日本人は家族はって言われたら、まあ基本的に一緒に住んでる人。
Okay, so Kuni's saying that the Japanese people, for the ordinary or typical Japanese person, the family is the people who live in the same house with you. So your father, your mother, because sometimes Japanese live with 3 generations in the house: father, mother, then the kids, so the husband and the wife, and then their kids. That's a typical family house.
そう。日本はね、同じ。まあ2代、3代一緒に住んでるご家庭もね、おじいちゃん、おばあちゃん、お父さん、お母さん、子供たちみたいな感じで、まあそこが大体家族っていうふうに言いますよね。はい。
So in America, we have that, but it's different because that's not the typical family. So when people live like that, sometimes we think, oh, they are very strange. Or we have a phrase, they live on top of each other. So too many together. American idea is you're by yourself. We are individual.
Individual.
By myself. 自分で or 一人ね. Or so we have the nuclear family. So just that's me and my wife and kids. That's the family. But the word family for American means mother, father, brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins, aunts, everybody. So it's bigger.
そうなの。じゃあ、ちなみに、how many family
oh my God.
do you have?
You're supposed to ask me that before so I can prepare. Because my mother had 6 brothers and sisters that survived. But I think she had 9 total, I believe. And my father had 12 brothers and sisters. So that's already 21 aunts and uncles.
Yes.
And one of my uncles has 13 kids. Just one. So how many cousins do you have? Like 13, right? Just not even 13. How many cousins do you have?
Cousin いとこは
Yeah, how many?
母方は8人.
Okay, so from Kuni's mother's side, she has 8 cousins. From my one uncle, I have 13. So, okay, Kuni, I'll do you a favor. I'll take my uncle out. But I have another 2 more aunts and uncles. They have 5 each. So I can just 2 more. I can still beat your family. Too many.
いっぱい。もうまずはね、マイクのお父さんお母さんもそれぞれ兄弟が多いですね。まあ日本も昔のちょっと上の世代はね、田舎は多いと思いますが。
そう、でも今まだに田舎ある。
今もね、まだ、
ね、
今もまだ。
今もまだ。
そうそう、今もまだ田舎の人たち。
日本語授業ね。
日本語授業。今もまだね、比較的こう田舎の地方の人たちは兄弟が多いですね。
So sometimes in Japan, it's not usual to have big families, but in the countryside or a long time ago, people had big families like my father and mother. But I can still find some in Ibaraki when I lived there. One of my students had 6 brothers and sisters.
そうね、多いね、多いね。
Yeah, the Suzukis. Too many Suzukis. So,
鈴木エリアね。
Yeah, Ibaraki is one of areas in Japan, and there's a lot of Suzuki.
鈴木さんって茨城?
Yeah, I think so. I used to live there.
そうなんだ、知らない。
So my cousins are also my family. So I want to talk about that. And I want to focus on 2 cousins that you know. And I want to talk about 2 of your cousins too. Let's talk about 3 of your cousins. So let's start with the Japanese cousin. Kuni, who's cousin Masa? Because that name is very confusing for me. When Kuni says Masa, I don't know who that is. Why? Who is Masa?
たまたまですね、私のいとこに、正則、正幸、正雄だっけな。
Oh my God. So
で、3人マサがいて、で、みんな、ちょっと英語喋れるんです。だからみんなマイクと、仲良くね、なってくれて、マサ、どのマサっていうぐらい、わかんないね。
Okay, so Kuni has 3 cousins that have the same name. Basically, she said the name. I don't remember because I cut it. I just say Masa. Everybody says Masa, but it's actually 2 boys and 1 woman, one girl.
Masako ne.
So Masako. So 2 boys and 1 girl. But I just call them cousin Masa, and there's 2 reasons I like them. Well, 3 reasons. They're my family because they're my cousins, and they're Kuni's cousins, so I already love them. But also, they are very friendly and they speak English. So that really helps.
そうそう。なんかそう、私のいとこももう即マイクのファミリーになっちゃったんですよ。で、さっきちょっと言ったんですが、日本人は一緒に住んでる人が大体家族。で、それ以外のいとことかおじさん、おばさんを親戚って言いますよね。親戚の集まりとか親戚に会う。だけど、アメリカ人、マイクの感覚は、そこも全部ファミリーなんですって。すごくないですか？
So for Japanese, it's the people in the house is family, and that word is kazoku. But for me, family is everybody. So that word would be shinseki. So which means relative. But for me, the family, because for some people in America and in Japan, if you don't like your brother, he's not really your family. He's your brother. So we don't always look at blood relation. It's also relationship. So I want to talk about one of my cousins, Jennifer. So you love Jennifer, right? So I think Jennifer, she says you're cute, Jennifer. I think Jennifer Kuni thought it was strange at first. Can you wonder why? Because my cousin is only 24 at the time. So 23 or 24 years old. And I'm already 49 or 48 when she came to Japan. So Kuni was like, that's your cousin? Right?
そうそうそうそう。
じゃあ日本語で。
とにかく、親戚おじさんおばさんがいっぱいいるので、若いいとこからもうオールドカズン、そう、オールドじゃない、オールダー、失礼しました。古くないね。年取ってるね。そう。
おじいさんだから。
おじいさん。そう、とにかく年の離れたいとこがいっぱいいて、24歳のね、親戚が来る。ファミリーが来る、いとこが来る。24歳で、もう子供みたいですよね。
Yeah, like my daughter. Sometimes people thought she was my daughter, right?
だからもうね、親子みたいに見えちゃうんですけど、親戚なんで、不思議で、二人の会話がなんか友達みたい。
So she said when we talk, we look like friends. But that's because we are friends, right? Because we had a good relationship. Her father and my father,They had a older brother, little brother relationship, but they basically had a good relationship when they weren't arguing. But they were close.
はい、日本語
そう、彼女のお父さんと私のお父さんはもちろん人間関係は良いですね。Sometimes they argue like brothers.
ここはcousin?
Yeah, he's my cousin. She's my cousin.
お父さんと
No, her father is my father's younger brother. 父の弟です。弟です。弟ですね。He was my father's younger brother. But Jennifer lived in Okinawa, so that's why she was really important.
そうだね。
Because she needed our support, right?
そうそう、その若いジェニファーというね、いとこが、この間まで、去年までですね、沖縄のベースの中でね、そのご主人の仕事の関係で沖縄のベースに住んでたんですね。だから、会う機会がね、何回か私もありました、ね。
Well, yeah, she lived in Okinawa on the base with her husband, and he worked in the military. But she was lonely because, he's working. He was a kind of a high position, I think. So she came to Tokyo a lot, many times.
3回ぐらい来たっけ
More.
もっと来た。
Yeah. But so she came to Tokyo many times, right?
So
but so three times she stayed at our house. Sometimes she came and didn't stay at our house. So at least 3 times she stayed with us. Because I wanted her to be able to come and feel like a family anytime. And Kuni was nice with her.
そうそうそう。だから、その沖縄にいたのでね、そのコロナになる前だったので、3回か4回来て、ディズニーランドが大好きで、一人で行ってましたね。
Yeah.
一人でね、私たちは忙しいよっていう。
She went with Mikey 2 times.
そうね、子供と一緒に行ったり。
そうそう。She went 3 times. She took Mikey at least 1 time.
一人でも行くから、みたいなね。そうそう、元気なね。もう今アメリカに戻ったんですけれども、そんなね、ファミリー、家族っていう、このくくりがですね、大きいんですよね。で、日本人が親族遠いけど、会わないとかじゃなくて、家族っていうくくりが大きいっていうのに驚きました。
Okay, so what she's saying, Jennifer is part of my family because it's big, and she came to Tokyo to go to Disneyland many times, but she's my family. And then, sorry, I didn't catch the part. You talked about Japanese. What did you mean when you said Japanese people? I didn't catch that, sorry.
日本人は、
じゃあ英語で。
日本人は、
That's not English, 英語で。
Japanese thought, family mean same house.
Okay.
But we love 親戚.
Okay, so we love the relatives. In our house, you mean? Our house.
So.
So the next one is my other cousin, Kimiko. So some of you know Kimiko. He came to Japan, and we had 3 months of craziness. So 2 months were perfect, but he decided to stay 1 more month, and that was too long. So even though we're family, 2 months was okay. 3 months was too long.
そう。別のね、いとこが日本にね、2ヶ月
Yeah, he came for 3. He told me 2 months.
最初2ヶ月って
But
言
he
った
stayed
の
for
に、
3 months with me.
3ヶ月いたそうです。
In my small room.
ちなみに、キミコって聞こえたと思うんですが、
そうね。
No girl です。
Yeah.
最初、私もキミコ、my cousin って言うんで、女のいとこかってずっと思ってたんですけど。
So Kimiko is a Japanese name, but it's a woman's name. So Kuni thought he was a girl when she finally met him in America. But actually, Kimiko is a man, a very handsome man. And he came to Japan, so he was very popular. And we had a great time, but he stayed too long. You know it. But so when we went home, though, because Kimiko is one of my favorite cousins, so Kuni really liked Kimiko, but I wasn't sure if you liked him or his driving, because she didn't like my driving. We had to drive all over California for my father's funeral and some other things. And so when I drove, Kuni would say, Mike, why don't you let Kimiko drive? Because she didn't like my driving. So Kimiko, I'm sorry. I don't know if my wife likes you or she likes your driving.
Okay, yes.
Can you do?
わかるよ、今の話は。そのね、キミコさんとね、私はアメリカでね、一緒に、車で移動するときに、マイクとかとね、一緒にいたんですね。最初はマイクの運転だったんですが、めちゃくちゃ速いんですよ。 で、日本は右ハンドル。だから私は、ごめんなさい、アメリカは左ハンドル。だから私は右ハンドルの右の席に座ってるので、looks like I was driving、私が運転してるような気分で、めっちゃ速くて怖くて、思わずブレーキを踏んでしまいそうになる。怖い思いをして。
Okay, so she didn't say what I said, but basically she was saying when I was driving in America, because Japan, they drive on the right side and Americans drive on the left side. She felt like she was driving and I was driving too fast. But I drive the speed limit. I never get speeding tickets.
Yes,
so I didn't drive too fast. But you didn't like my driving. So Kimiko, you preferred Kimiko's driving.
そうそう。そんでこのキミコさんが運転したら、すごい堅実でね、安心できたんです。よかった。だから、そのマイク休んだらって言いながら、キミコさん、これ、ハイコンタクトね。
that was low context.
ハイコンタクトでしょ
High context. Context.
コンテクト。
Contact はこれ。So context. So you think, so context は文脈、背景、状況、ね。これ contact はパンチね。So you think I think that's low context. So that's a high context message. That's an example. So I didn't understand. I thought she just really likes Kimiko because he's cool. But actually, she liked Kimiko's driving better than my driving. And I didn't realize it till I got home. So this is a high context message. Mike, why don't you take a rest and let Kimiko drive? And I thought, oh, yeah, that's cool. I'll let him drive. But then I realized the fifth time, it was like, Kuni, I only drove 10 minutes. So then, hold on, you don't like my driving. But it's high context message.
そうね。一生懸命ね、キミコさんに運転してもらいたくてね、言ったんですね。これまさにハイコンタクトでしたね。
High context. You got to get that word right. Context. But that's the point about family. So in family, we help each other. But also here, we help each other too, right? I mean,
もちろん。
Kuni's family, we can't see each other so much because of Corona. But for example, her two nieces, Ayaka and Aika, they live downstairs on the 5th floor, and they always help with Mikey. So for example, Aika is his tutor. So she tutored him for many months whenever she's not busy in Japanese.
そう。まあね。助け合いの精神はアメリカも日本も一緒ですよね。で、私の、姪っ子たちがですね、近くに住んでいます。で、ちょうど年も、うちの息子くんのマイキーくんと近いので、日本語がわからないマイキーに一生懸命、高校生の、姪っ子がですね、英語の勉強がてら、お互いウィンっていうことで、面倒見てもらってね、助けてもらってますね。はい。
So that's, what I wanted to talk about with family. Like just the differences, but it's really the same thing. The family is the people who you love and who you help them or they help you because you care about each other. That's a family. So it doesn't matter the name.
だからやっぱり助け合う、ヘルプするっていうのは、私も改めてですね、マイクは海の向こうにいるいとことよく電話をしたりしてます。お互い相談するんですよ。でも、日本人は多分、先週も言いましたが、ちょっと電話しても、私も母親と離れてるときは、いいとこ15分ぐらいね。だけど、そういう意味では、気持ちは一緒だけど、そうなんですよ、コミュニケーションの、時間だけを比べたら、長いなーっていう感じがね。
Okay, so Kuni's saying now that, sometimes I talk with my cousins for a long time. If I have some trouble or they have trouble, they'll call me. But similar for her, but when she would call, for example, her mother, it was just a 15-minute call. Too long of a call doesn't feel right. So let me ask you about family and talk about friends a little bit, because you had a friend that you hadn't seen for many years, like 30 years, and she came. So Yuka-san, ne? And do you consider her your family? I mean, she's your friend. Is she your friend or your family? How do you?
私にとって?
Yeah, how do you feel? Because like for me, some of my close friends, it feels like a family.
そうね。
How about her?
いや、たまたまですね、最近、私の友達に、26年ぶり もうね、年の計算が大体バレますけれども、26年ぶりに会ったんです。で、もうめっちゃ学生時代仲良かったんですけど、社会人になって SNS ない、携帯電話ない、メールアドレスもあんまりまだよくわからない時に、彼女はアメリカに行ってしまったので、そこからずっと連絡が取れなかったんですね。
Okay, so Cooney had a friend, what did you say, 25 years ago?
About
Well, 25, I think 30, but she said 25. So 25 years ago, her friend Yuka, they met in school. They didn't go to the same school, but they were tennis players. So that made them be close because they had similar lifestyle, you know, tennis captains. So they talked to each other. And after school, they were really close. But then suddenly when they became workers, she moved to America and they didn't have SNS and Facebook and email addresses and things like that. So they lost contact for all those years.
ね、本当に。そう。
But she found you. She said she looked for Cooney for many, many years, and she finally found you and came, and they looked like I had to leave. They kicked me out of the room because they wanted to talk to each other.
そうそう、その彼女がね、たまたま本当に時代を超えて SNS で私をキャッチしてくれたんです。名前も変わったのに。それで会うことができて、もうお話ししたんですけど、もうマイクの話よりも2人で話したいわけですよ。だからマイクにちょっと向こう行ってて、みたいなね。
Okay, so, you know, they had lost contact and because of the, you know, they didn't have Facebook and things like that. So they didn't have a chance to talk. So when I came in the room, they really wanted to talk to each other. But, you know, they were talking to me, but they were trying to be polite. But you guys were very low context when you told me to get out, especially you. You was like, go away and come back later. So I would leave and come back. But that's just an example of like, I think, I think for Japanese people, sometimes your friends might take the place. For me, my first friends are my family members.
そうね。いや、me too. クロスフレン、親友ってね、まあ日本語だと言いますね、クロスフレン。ずっとこう、付き合いのあるクロスフレンの親友はもう私も家族みたいですよね。
Oh, sorry, but I meant my first close friends were my family. So when I was a kid, my cousins, we used to go to their house every week. They lived very far. But that was my best friend was my cousin, Tony, you know, my mother's nephew. I always I called him on the phone. So maybe that's why I like to talk on the phone because he lived so far. And we used to call once a week and go to their house once a month.
そうね。まあ、それは多分ね、
maybe that's why.
幼馴染とか日本語言いますね。小さい頃から。When we had kids, ずっと友達ね。
Yeah. So they're my cousins, though, I mean. And then after that, you know, now you have friends and family. And so in our group, we have lots of friends and family. Some of them are here. And I want to say that we miss you and we want to see you, but this coronavirus, so this is another reason why we're doing this.
Okay, はい、日本語。
どうぞ。
そうそう、もうそのね、お友達、小さい頃からのお友達はいとことかね、まあしょっちゅういろんなお話をして、会えるときは会ってたけど、まあ特にここね、やっぱりコロナになったので、電話でお互いを思いやってるっていうか、まあ、いろいろね、お話ししてるってことですね。はい。メッセージいただいてます。
そうね。
すずさん、ありがとうございます。ハロー。はい。she said, your story is funny.
Thank you. So, did you say 面白い? 楽しい. Okay, so it's funny. Because, that's one, so 最後ね、単語。Japanese people, sometimes you say 面白い when you want to say funny. Because 面白い means interesting. But when you say funny, because we're low context, so funny in English, sometimes it means strange. Like, that's funny. That's weird. So it feels like my,
ちょっとニュアンスがね。
So nuance for me, 面白い sometimes mean変.
そう、彼女は今これ楽しいですね。
楽しい。So thank you. I can understand that.
Okay. ありがとうございます。今日はちょっとバッグもね、作ってみて、はい。国が見えないよ。ちょっと、はい。
Well, you know, you're Kuni. So next week, we're going to talk about,
何の話しますか?
next week, you guys can tell it. You know what? You can tell us what you want to talk about too. But I think next week I was saying we were going to talk about maybe friends.
Friends.
Or I want to talk about the food that we eat.
ああ、
It might be interesting. But anyway,
そうね。
we'll have a nice topic for you next week. We're looking forward to it. See you there.
はい。では、じゃあまた新しいトピックを考えて。
考えます。Please send us a message. Tell us what you want to talk
そう
about.
そうそう。何かあったら、聞いてみたいことがあったらメッセージでもください。よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。
ではでは、おやすみなさい。
おやすみなさい。
さよなら。
Or good morning, American people. おはようございます。
Have a nice
Good morning.
weekend.